For this video, we'll be covering the kind of tricks that some people use to remember the signs of numbers when we multiply and divide integers. I'm not crazy about memorization methods and understanding math by way of memorizing it, but every year someone wants to know, wait, like just give me the general rules. So you don't have to cover the deep conceptual idea while you're just trying to answer a simple question. So in the past, I've seen two different ways that students have chosen to remember whether the answer is positive or negative when you multiply or divide integers. And one of them is Sleepy Man, and the other is a tic-tac-toe board. And we're gonna take notes on both and practice with both, and then you can choose which one you use to help you remember. We'll also be talking in depth about why the answers come out the way that they do, and it's much more important that we understand that. But when you're just quickly trying to do a problem, these things should help you figure out whether the answer is positive or negative. So let's first write that we are going to have two different memorization methods that we'll keep referring to. Okay, we'll skip a line. Let's center it on the page. So memorization method number 1 is Sleepy Man. So here's how you draw Sleepy Man. And let's highlight this. Okay, so Sleepy Man has a circular head. He has two sleepy eyes and kind of a puckered up mouth. And I usually draw him like divided into 3 sections kind of his face, his mouth, and then his 2 eyes separately. Okay, so here's how you use Sleepy Man. So let's move it down so we can still see him. All right, so underneath here, we're going to write that you cover the 2 signs in the problem. And we'll do an example so you can see it. So cover the 2 signs in the problem and the sign of the answer is what is not covered up. Okay, so let's do a couple examples. So example 1, right, let's say we've got, so we need 2 colors here. Let's say we've got -2 times 3. Okay, so using Sleepy Man. Right, so let's draw an arrow here. Let's draw a tiny little Sleepy Man. So I would cover up one of the negative sections, doesn't matter which one, because of the -2, and I'd cover up a positive section because of the +3. So a negative times a positive, we cover up a negative and a positive, and the answer is what remains, which is a negative. So we know 2 times 3 would be 6, but this one is going to be -6. And so the uncovered part is here, and that's why this is negative. Let's do another example. Let's do an example with division. So for example 2, let's do -8 divided by -2. Okay, let's draw a sleepy man. Oops, I want to use black. Alright, his eyes and mouth. Okay, so for the -8, we'll cover up one of the negative sections, doesn't matter which one. And for the -2, we'll cover up other negative section. So we can see that this is the area that's not covered up, right? So we'd cover up the two negatives, and that would leave us with the positive. So 8 divided by 2 would be 4. Right? And we can see that the uncovered part is this part here, and so that means that our answer would be a +4. We know we don't have to write the little plus sign there, but I just want to emphasize it. And that's how you use sleepy man. Okay, so for our other method, so that one works, it works all the time, that will just help you remember whether the signs are positive number. So the other one, so method number 2, is tic-tac-toe. Alright, so this one requires that you remember how to draw the tic-tac-toe board. Alright, so let's highlight that. Okay, so let's draw the tic-tac-toe board. I'm just going to leave a little bit of space here because I'm going to number the columns of our tic-tac-toe board. Alright, so we've got column number 1. And you usually don't have to write this in, but it's just going to help us when we take our notes so that we know. When I mention the columns, at least you know what I'm referring to. Okay, so to set up the tic-tac-toe board, you want to make, and if you could use 2 colors for this, that would be great. You want to make one of the diagonals, and it really doesn't matter which one, all plus signs. And then everywhere else, it gets a minus sign. Okay, so I'm going to write those notes here on the left, that positive sides on one diagonal and negative signs in the remaining spaces. So to use this tic-tac-toe board, we use the columns to determine the sign of the answer. Okay, so let's do 2 examples for that one. So let's say, for example, so example 3, let's say we're multiplying 3 times a -4. Okay, so because it's a positive and a negative, we would use column 1, positive, negative. So we use column number 1. Right, which looks like this. It has, at the top of column 1, it has a plus, so it goes positive. Oops, I did that the wrong color, that should have been green. Positive, negative, negative, right? So it's positive 3, -4, so you look for the column that goes positive and negative, so it's the first one. And then, since this last sign is negative, we use a negative sign for our answer. Right? So that tells us that the answer is -12. because the last sign tells you the sign of your answer. All right, let me move this down. We'll do one more example. And then obviously we'll be done. We're on the last line of the page. All right, so let's say we have -6 divided by -1. All right, in this case, we're going to use column number 3 because it's negative divided by negative. So we use column number 3, which looks like this: negative, negative, positive. And so our answer, 6 divided by 1 would be 6, and then column 3 tells us that a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So my answer would be positive 6. So we see that from the bottom of the column. And those are our notes on how to remember whether the signs of our multiplication and division problems with signed numbers come out to be positive or negative.